pretty motley bunch, and they're trying to get to Mortain. And we would walk, and we would walk, and you would hear a motor, and we would know that that was an American or British plane. So one of them would yell out a signal, and we would hurry to a ditch on each side of the road and sit motionless, absolutely motionless, not one movement, hoping we would blend in with the weeds and the rocks in the ditch. We came to a little village, and remember, I'm drying up. My tongue is stuck to the roof of my mouth, and I'm more than dry. And the Americans, the British, had bombed this little village, and they had blasted the front off of a little old market. And I see shelves with bottles on it. I didn't know what was in these bottles, but I asked permission to go get a bottle of that stuff. The front and the side were off of this little, about the size of a little quick market today. And no permission given. So there was water in the ditch from rain, and it was pretty clear. And I asked permission, oh, can I get a drink there? No. Might have been polluted, I don't know. But anyway, this German in charge was suffering with leg wound, and he sees a bicycle up in a Frenchman's front yard, so he hobbles up a couple of steps into this yard, and he steals or just takes this bicycle. He didn't realize it had 2 flat tires. So he gets it down on the road, and he wires his suitcase. A lot of the German officers or Germans carried suitcases in combat, especially the Germans. They could put a little ammo in it and a change of clothes. So he wired this thing to the handlebars. We're going along, and he's pushing that thing, and he gets tired, and he yells at me. And so I knew what he wanted, and he wants me to take care of that bicycle. So I'm shoving that thing along. And after a couple hours, we come to a fairly steep hill, and I get on that bicycle, even with the tires rubbing the framework. I'm going along there about 1.5 miles an hour, about as fast as they're walking. He yelled hard at me to get off of it. Of course, I jumped right off of it, and I'm pushing that thing along. And pretty soon they decided to cut across country. They had a little map. So I had to lift that thing over fences and drag it up ditches. But I'm in pretty good shape. I'm the only one not hurt. And finally, we're on the road toward Mortain, walking, and along came a stake body truck, a German truck. And it had benches on the back, like the old CCC stake body trucks in this country were. And so we all pile on that truck, and boy, that made those Germans happy as heck. And we're riding along there, and boy, what a target, you know, for a plane. It's dangerous. And over time, these Germans realized that I would mind and that I was not going to give them any trouble. But I had had nothing to eat for more than 2 days. And that night, we stopped at a Frenchman's farmhouse. He had just milked a couple of water buckets, we call it, of fresh milk. And they got permission to bed down in his backyard under a big old apple tree. And they bought, I saw him give them, the Frenchman, they bought 2 buckets of milk. And these Germans sat around, they pulled out their black bread and their crackers, whatever they had, whatever kind of meat, and they ate it. Each dipped a cup of that warm milk out of those buckets. And nothing for us, nothing, no milk. And after they got all the milk they wanted to drink, pretty soon one of them takes his big canteen cup and he looks at me and he says, you know, as if to say, do you want to use my cup? I said, certainly, you know. So I takes that cup and I drank 12 large cups of that warm milk. That's the first food or liquid I'd had in 2.5 days. And then I asked permission to loan it to the other 2 Americans, and they said yes, so I gave them the cup, and they each had about 3 cups. But after I finished the 9th cup, some of the Germans started laughing at me, you know, that I could hold so much milk. Anyway, they finally got to Mortain, and it's a 4-story Catholic schoolhouse. It's school is out, it's June, and they've taken it over and made an evacuation hospital out of it. It's got huge red crosses painted on the top. And this guy that was so mean to me in charge, he must have put in a good word for me with the guy we called the commandant, the senior surgeon, German surgeon there. Because when he got ready to leave there, he was feeling pretty good by that time. He wanted to be friendly with me without letting it be known. So he gave me sort of a half, smile and a nod. First good sign I'd seen it from him in the several days. So I stayed there at Morton. They gave me a nice school-sized room, and it had some cots in it, and I'm supposed to take care of the wounded, British, Canadian, and American prisoners that had been shot and captured. So that was my job, night and day work. It was something to behold, really.
Dearest Norma, received your letter yesterday and was so glad to hear from you. Wish I could see you. I also received a letter from Clara and Edgar. We seem to all be hit alike. John was a swell little man. No slack in him. Brave, took the tough job to do. We are all proud of him. We hope he is alive somewhere, but I am really scared. If he is killed, he gave his life for his mother, his country, and for us. He is going to be hard to give up. He will always live in my heart. I will miss his letters. He was so good to write. I just live from day to day to hear from him or send him candy. I enjoyed it. I sent him 10 boxes of candy, but he only received 8 of them. I would write to him every Sunday, thinking maybe he could hear from me. Yes, Nana, we think we are prepared, but we are never. I knew he had a slim chance, but would say he has to come back. They all can't, but we all wanted him to be one of the lucky guys that would come back, and maybe he will. We all go around in a daze. I can't keep my chin up all the time. I've got to get my cry out. I walk a while and cry a while. I sent John's picture to the Globe, and it is in the morning paper. Nora did the writing. We were in a hurry to get it mailed. I am sorry we didn't put it in where he did his training, but now I can't think of anything. Well, Norma, I am with you, thinking, hoping, and praying he will come through on top. I feel so sorry for you. You guys never had a chance, but we hope someday you will. Write soon. We hope you feel better. Love, Judy.
There's Private Robert Cone, C-O-N-E. Got his mohawk haircut, and he's getting ready. He's hooking equipment bundles on the airplane to be dropped. And of course, we're all heavily laden with leg packs and backpacks and a lot of stuff, gas mask and reserve chute, main chute. We were quite heavily burdened with weight. Now, Cone jumped in and was captured. And I saw him after I was a prisoner. The 2 Germans came walking him down the road at Morton. Anyway, they were walking him barefooted. I saw him and I said, "Robert, where are your boots?" He said, "Oh, they took them off of me. They claim I'm a Jew. They claim my name is Cohen, C-O-H-E-N. But he said, I showed them my dog tags, and to best of my knowledge and memory, he was not wounded." And Robert never made it back from the war, and I believe I was the last guy to see him alive, barefooted and, to my knowledge, uninjured. But some of the Germans were pretty sensible, pretty good, like the old colonel in charge of the place, the surgeon. He tried to tell me one time that man is man. He didn't speak any English, but he says, "Man is man." That was his way of letting me. And he would treat the Americans, the British, and the Canadians the best he could. And one day they put a wounded German. He was gray and lost his color, wasn't breathing. They put him on a stretcher in a kind of a dark room. And he was in there a while, and I walked by that room and looked in, and he made a big gasp, you know, like that. And so I ran downstairs. I thought they were putting him there for dead. And I tried to tell him that he was gasping. I showed him. And they sent a guy with me, and I showed him how he gasped. And so they got him and took him down to the operating room. And they sent word back up to this attic that they knew he was still alive, but they were waiting his turn to be waited on. But I think they put him in there for dead. And after that, the old guy in charge, the old officer in charge, knew that I meant well. And he sent word for me to go down to the pay table, that I would get paid, you know, for my night and day work, paid in new French francs. So I went down, and there was 2 Germans still in line. And they turned around and looked at me as if to say, oh, what in the world are you doing in line? So they got paid, and the guy doing the paying, he was expecting me. He had been told. And he said in German, Fallschirmjäger, yo, you're a paratrooper. Sanitäter, you know, medic, paratrooper. And he opens a book, and the German paratrooper drew more money than the Wehrmacht, the regular. The German paratrooper was drawing $36 a month, and the German Wehrmacht, the regular army, was drawing 24. British were getting 16, by the way. We were getting 50 plus jump pay and so forth. Anyway, he gave me $36 in new French francs. And then he says, kommen Sie her, come with me. So he folds up his book, and we go down a hallway, and he takes the key and he unlocks a little mini PX, it's just a little shelves of something. And he didn't know what he could give me and get by with it. He scratched his head. So he gives me 7 cigars, a few cigarettes. I didn't smoke, but the guys that did would like them. And he gives me at least 2 bittersweet chocolate bars and a bottle of wine. And he's thinking. And he says, now don't ever tell, he tells me in German, I'd picked up some German. He said, don't ever tell her, ich bin Gefangener, I'll be the prisoner. He gives me a bottle of cognac. Good cognac, I'm told. I wasn't a drinker. But I only kept the 2 bars of candy, and I gave the rest to the wounded up in the attic there. And boy, they were glad to get it, especially the cigarettes. Guy may be laying there half dead, but he's got to have a smoke. No place you could get any. So it's something to remember. A pretty good gesture on the old man's part. And I think it came about by my insistence that they look after this German that I thought they thought was dead. And in my cooperation around there, oh, to get food and treatment, I've got to cooperate fully. It was a pleasure. And I behaved. I knew not to do anything wrong. Sure. One day out in the courtyard where we got our wounded, a big courtyard out front, I hear a German yell at me to come here. And I went over to him, and he shows me his medals on his chest. He says, I've shot down 12 of your airplanes, and I'm going to keep on shooting them down, he tells me in German. So I tell him, I really made him mad. I tell him, it doesn't matter how many you've shot down. We have thousands and thousands of planes in England, and they're going to keep coming until we win the war. And he blew his top. He got so mad, and he had a pistol there. He was wearing a sidearm, but he didn't make a move to get it or use it. I thought I might have I really rubbed it in on him. And I was telling him the truth. Yeah, our air power was very important. We had overwhelming air power, or the landings would have never happened. And we had 7,000 boats in that channel. Landing crafts, we were controlling the sky. We had to, or we'd have never gotten a foothold in Normandy. For sure, we couldn't have got across the channel with 833 C-47 airplanes. Couldn't have done it.